Go to Matthew chapter 28. Matthew 11, forgive me. Verse 28. Matthew 11, verse 28. And it reads, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." In light of the School of the Bible Sunday, this message we were talking about getting rest came out a lot. And it really hit me. So I decided I was inspired to look at a story to take an account of myself. And I asked myself a question. So I'm going to share with you guys as I was reading the story. And the question that I asked myself is, am I a worker against rest? Am I working against rest? So let's first go and make sure that we know that the Lord has given us rest. And we have that understanding that rest comes from knowing Christ and knowing that he has come and completed the work. It is finished. God has raised him, and he's seated on high in majesty. And he made us to sit with him. Rest is the position of sitting. There's a book by Watchman Nee called Sit, Walk, Stand. It's a very good book that helps you understand the rest, that we first start off from a position of rest. But I was inspired to read this story and look over myself and see that if I'm somebody who is actually enjoying the rest of the Lord, or am I working against him? Let's go to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 10. Am I enjoying it, or am I working against it? So in Luke chapter 10, I'm going to start reading at verse 38. 38, forgive me. "Now it came to pass as they went that he entered," this is speaking of Christ, "into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister had left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful. And Mary hath chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her." So I was inspired to look at Martha and Mary. And I was seeing that Martha was working against rest. And I said, am I this way? So I looked at her story and I took it to myself to see, do I have this disposition? Am I this way? First thing I seen is that she was cumbered. And you look up the word cumbered, is busy or distracted. Are we distracted with many other things than finding proper rest in the Lord? Are we worried about doing things for the Lord than the Lord himself? There's a book called The Character of God's Work, and another book by Watchman Nee. And one of the main things he says is the worker is more important than the work. The worker is more important than the work. Christ didn't come get us so that we can work for him. He got us so that we can rest. He said, come unto me and I'll give you rest. He didn't say come to me so I can give you a job to do. But one of the things how I get sometimes is I get distracted with things of work that needs to be done. And then I can see another attitude that Martha had that sometimes I get. When you're cumbered about and you're distracted and you're working against rest. We'll see that we are worried about other people who aren't doing what we're doing. Went to the Lord and said, don't you see Mary is not doing anything? I'm working. Why aren't she doing that? And that's how we can get sometimes when we feel like we're working for the Lord. If he gave us a job, then he gave us a job. But we feel like everybody else needs to be doing it with us. And if you have that attitude, you might be working against rest. Because when we see in this other story, we see Mary did what? She sat. Say, sat. She rested. Jesus was made to sit, and he made us to sit with him. So Martha knew the better thing was to sit and fellowship the Lord, to have communion with him. That's the better work, because it says this is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he has sent. But me, myself, I like to worry about getting other things done. And I need to know now that I'm working, I start to get aggravated because other people aren't working with me. But if it's a job for me to do, then I need to be doing it. So one thing I learned now is that if I'm doing a task and I'm mad that somebody else isn't working like I'm working, I might be working against rest. Because now I've become, and the issue is, people who's working against rest don't want others resting. They don't like to see it. Why are they sitting down? Why I got to do this? They need to be up moving. Not realizing that they're getting what's better. See, communion with God, that's the priority. She knew that and she sat at his feet. But I'm sometimes, worried about what others are doing.